Hello, everybody. Thanks for having us. We're very happy to be here. So we're going to take the next 45 minutes to talk about the role of brand purpose in creative, which I think is a really timely, topical, and meaty and interesting subject. So we're going to dive in. The first thing that I did when I heard about the topic of this panel is I looked on the dictionary to say, really, what is the definition of purpose? And it is the reason for which something is done or created, or for which something exists. And I think as marketers, we can agree that every brand should or does have a purpose, a fundamental why that shapes its unique identity and serves to engage, inspire, and drive action. So to kick things off, I'm going to ask each of you to talk about the why for your company or your brand. So Mitch, can we start with you?
Sure, I can do it. Good afternoon, everybody. I know it's been a long day, and you're probably going to hear some similar themes and everything that we have to talk about from what you may have heard this morning and throughout the rest of the afternoon. But to talk a little bit more about purpose and Whirlpool, we have to talk a little bit more about the kitchen. We've been talking about the kitchen all day long, but for Whirlpool Corporation, we're in the constant pursuit of improving life at home, and we do that by aspiring to be the best kitchen and laundry company in the world. In the United States, we do that through many of our leading brands, specifically in home appliances and in some like CPG brands, but more precisely through our brands like Whirlpool, Maytag, KitchenAid, JennAir, and InSinkErator. I'm sure many of you have heard of those brands before. You may have them in your home. But for KitchenAid, for example, that's the brand that I live and breathe every day, so I may be a little bit biased. I do think it is probably the most prestigious brand in our portfolio, but we are all about living life hands-on, right? We think that disenchantment in the kitchen is a disappointment, and we believe that your time in the kitchen should be enjoyed, it should be treasured, and that's what we fight for. So from a brand purpose perspective, we are really focused on building extraordinary kitchen experiences, and that's why we exist. So you'll hear a little bit more about that as we move on in our session.
Awesome, we'll share the microphone here. So again, Julia Lowe, I'm from Tropicana Brands Group. Some of you might be wondering, what is that company? You've heard of Tropicana, but not the Brands Group part. So we're a divestiture from PepsiCo. This happened about 1.5 years ago, where all the juice businesses are now 40% owned by Pepsi, 60% by European private equity fund, and we still sit in the PepsiCo offices, which are about a 5-minute walk from here. And so understanding what our company purpose was very paramount for a company that had just been divested. What do we stand for? Who are we? How do we show up? And we actually went through that exercise very fresh in all of our minds. And so our global remit is to be the chill leader in fresh and chilled beverages, and to do that by delighting through every sip that we give across our product line. And so each of our products and our brands underneath that have individual purposes, but we ladder up to that global chilled and refreshed beverage leader, which we are working towards pretty aggressively right now, and I'll talk about it a little bit later.
Okay. Hi everyone, I'm Liz Mella. I'm from Farmer's Fridge, and I am in the last few weeks of my maternity leave here, so forgive me if I'm a little rusty. I'm getting my marketing speak back up to speed. But Farmer's Fridge sells fresh food out of refrigerated vending machines that we call fridges. You might have seen them at places like airports, hospitals, universities, and office buildings. And so we're really on a mission to make it as simple to find fresh food as a candy bar. And our purpose, as we stated, is to make fresh fruits and vegetables accessible and approachable to everyone. So this panel felt like a natural fit. Our purpose is really integral to everything we do. We really focus on the approachability part. We don't want fresh food and vegetables to be something that only people in a certain economic class can access. We want it to be for everyone. We want it to be quick. And we also do a lot of purpose work in terms of giving back to local communities with unsold meals and cause marketing partnerships.
Hi everyone, I'm Jen Varela. I am currently enjoying vacation because I'm going to be starting at a new company in a couple weeks, but I've had a lot of experience developing brand purpose and really building brands way back when I was at Mars Wrigley. That was some of the first time that we had even, used the word purpose. And so really digging into those insights to be able to uncover what it meant for the Extra brand in particular. And then most recently, I was at Reynolds Consumer Products where I worked on Hefty, which most of you don't think of sustainability when you think of Hefty, but that was really a turning point for us, was trying to figure out how we as plastic, selling millions and millions of tons of plastic, but also has a purpose, from a product standpoint of being very convenient to contain your trash and contain the mess and take it out. How do we really leverage that to drive our purpose but still be relevant in this broader context of sustainability? So I also have some experience doing that you'll hear more about.
Okay, thank you everybody. So it's clear that brand purpose is central to each of your businesses, your brands. In the spirit of this conversation, let's pivot that towards to understanding how purpose influences the creative process and fosters deeper connections with consumers. Mitch, can I pick on you again?
Sure. Okay, yeah, so there's a lot in there, right? How you can connect your brand through purpose with consumers. And I think from a KitchenAid perspective, we've struggled with that. I think we're on a good journey now, but to share a little bit more about our journey, I mean, KitchenAid is a brand that has really deep meaning with millions of Americans, millions of consumers all over the world. Raise a hand, who has a KitchenAid stand mixer? Right? Another quick raise of hand. Who got your stand mixer passed down to you from your mom or your dad? All right, and then who got your stand mixer as like a wedding present? Right. So the trouble that we've had as a brand is we've played really well functionally with consumers. We get a lot of functional credit. The emotional credit that we get is through highly emotive life experiences. So you think fondly about, oh my God, I got my stand mixer from my mom, it was a family heirloom, I love it, it has this really special sentimental attachment to me. Or it's, oh my gosh, my partner and I just got married, we're starting our first house, we got our first stand mixer, we really made it. So your connection to your stand mixer, and therefore your connection to KitchenAid, is through that life experience. And I think it's also fair to say that over the last 30 years or so, our creative at KitchenAid has really been on a journey. There's been times where we have shown up in a very aspirational way, playing into like luxury living and luxury home appliances. We've also shown up in a very like gritty and real way, speaking to hardcore bakers and hardcore cooks, these people who live and breathe in the kitchen because that's what they love to do. These are the people that get tattoos of the stand mixer on their body. They really do too. People do it. The problem with that is we're only emotionally connecting and functionally connecting with a very small subset of people. And we're not driving an emotional connection with a broad audience that enables growth, that allows us to build our brand and build our business. And then COVID happened, right? So we took that period of COVID as like, as I'm sure many of you did, right? Like you saw skyrocketing sales, your business was booming, you're like, apart from the world burning down, like the business is doing great. And so we took that time to say, okay, let's reset and let's understand how our consumers actually experience our brand, how they experience our products, because we want to talk to them in a way that they naturally experience KitchenAid in their daily lives, rather than presenting a version of KitchenAid to them that we think they want to see. And through that, that exercise of pressing pause, doing the consumer qual, we realized that consumers experience KitchenAid in like an everyday way. We still have a premium value prop, but there are very special but very real ways that consumers enter our franchise. But we still weren't getting credit for connecting with them emotionally. And COVID also continued to emphasize that, right? People were cooking at home, so they were spending a lot of money on home cooking appliances, countertop appliances, things to enrich that lived life experience. But we still weren't showing up in a way that, that they could connect with KitchenAid outside of these life experiences. And so we had developed a creative framework that, again, is rooted in creative effectiveness. You probably heard it all day long, and you'll continue to hear it for the next couple of years probably, until the new buzzwords come along. But you know, we followed the traditional like Kantar model for creative effectiveness, right? Growing your funnel metrics, growing your brand attributes, and really connecting with consumers through an optimized media plan, blah, 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 blah. And we took that and then we built on it, and we really wanted to find the intersection of the head space and the heart space, so that we are not only winning with the functional benefits that consumers really see us for, but that we're finally tapping into the emotional heart space and drawing a really real connection with a broad swath of consumers, everybody from boomers to Gen Z, that they could see themselves living in a KitchenAid kitchen, they could see themselves using a KitchenAid stand mixer. And the output of that was a new campaign that we launched last year called Make to Stand Out. And this campaign, we were really excited. It won Kantar, well, it didn't win. It was #2 in the world for Kantar's Global Creative Effectiveness for a digital ad campaign, and then it won a Gold Ogilvy Award. But I want to play for you real quick so that I can share with you kind of how our creative has transformed and more about the journey and the destination that we're going to. You can turn it up too. So through this, this campaign, we took KitchenAid back to a very usage occasion level. So really bringing through the functional RTBs of our product, different ways that you can use it, really keeping the stand mixer at the center and the focal point, but then creating an emotional tie and winning the heart space through color, right? You saw a lot of different colors of stand mixer, and that's one of the ways that we stand out as a brand. You saw a lot of different color throughout the spot. It was also very cinematic. So by bringing through these creative cues, we're able to win more credit with our broad swath of consumers, but also with Gen Z and Millennial, to really drive our purpose of creating an extraordinary experience in the kitchen. They can see themselves in this spot. They can see themselves in this kitchen making dip for family game night. They can see themselves making pancakes for Sunday breakfast. They can see themselves in a KitchenAid kitchen, and that's really the piece of our purpose that we have been missing.
I think that's a great example of taking time-honored tradition and innovation to meet the values of today's changing consumer. Thank you. All right, so moving on. Building on the idea of unique brand identity and consumer connection, connecting with today's consumer demands authenticity, especially in a crowded market space. So Julia, can you talk to us about what do you feel is the key to authenticity while keeping brand purpose front and center? And how does Tropicana differentiate itself from competitors, though it's through its marketing and creative, while staying true to the core purpose?
Sure. Great. So the way that I think we've stayed authentic to who we are, and Tropicana's been around for 75 years, Naked's been around for 40 plus years, Naked Juice, another one in our portfolio, is we always start our purposes looking at our founder story. And we have two really unique founder stories. And so our founder, Anthony Rossi for Tropicana, actually was the first one to bring juices to the masses. He created this thing called a juice train and brought juices outside of Florida. He was able to democratize fresh juice to the masses. And he spread the idea of positivity and brightness. He was an entrepreneur, and he was very tenacious and persistent in that positivity. And so this idea of bringing brightness and tenacious positivity is something that is inherent in our DNA, and that's really the founding of our purpose. And by coming to that through different cultural moments and insights with consumers, but staying close to bringing brightness kind of in your day-to-day life through a sip of sunshine, that has held us kind of to the tenets of creativity. And there's a lot of activations I can talk about where we delivered against that in much more modern and unique ways. So that's one example. And then another authentic kind of start we've had is around Naked. So the name Naked, you might not know this as well, but it was founded on the beaches of Santa Monica in California. And it was coined because of our founder's love of nude sunbathing. And so, again, when we're looking at staying true to our purpose, it's all around supporting people's kind of quest for authenticity and doing it how they want to be in a naked, free kind of spirit way. We were a hippie from the beginning. And so as we're actually looking at evaluating new campaign work, I came from a bunch of that work today. How do we stay true to our brand purpose of naked authenticity? What you see is what you get, right? Fruits and juices in the bottle, that's who we are. And so I think always starting with your founder story has been a great litmus test and North Star for me. Not every brand has such a unique start, but if you kind of look back to the brand's DNA, it helps set the tone for where you want to go. Don't stay pigeonholed by it, but it's also just a fun kind of filter to evaluate.
Fun indeed. All right, so as we talk about democratizing for many, the idea of fresh food from a vending machine definitely challenges traditional perceptions. So Liz, how do you weave the tenets of freshness and accessibility, the cornerstones of your brand's purpose, into your brand's creative narratives?
Yeah, so I think for us, really the challenge is to help people get over the skepticism that they have, very validly, of fresh food from a vending machine. It's kind of breaking a paradigm. You expect junk food in there. You don't expect the food to be good. You expect it to be kind of maybe an okay option, and we really are out here to prove that not only is it an okay option, but it's a fantastic option. It's a restaurant quality meal with the best price to value that you'll find on the market for what it is, and you can get it in less than a minute in places where you normally wouldn't really be able to nourish yourself. And so I think all of us internally really truly believe in our product, and we believe that we are offering something that can make the world a better place, you know, to use a cheesy phrase. And so with that, the challenge of bringing that message to our creative really becomes energizing, because my job as a marketer is to help people get over the like high tech, this machine isn't for me, am I gonna have to download something to use it? You know, maybe I'll just go to what I know at the airport vibe, but help them to just make it very approachable and easy to use, which is what it is. So when I kind of think about bringing that message to the creative that we put out in the world, definitely lean on, like Mitch said, color as kind of one of the first things. Photography has always been really key for us. I don't want to oversell the food by any means, but just capturing how fresh and delicious it truly is, and the premium ingredients with a big emphasis on food photography and capturing the offerings in an interesting way. Our food is sold in a jar, kind of like a mason jar, so that makes it really fun to play with, the different photography styles. And then for me, I'm a writer originally, so it always comes back to voice and tone. I've done a lot of work on the past couple of years on looking at our tone and how we speak to consumers to really make it approachable and colloquial, but also just simple. We're a Midwestern brand. It's not rocket science. We sell delicious salads. We're not trying to hit you over the head with all this health information. We're just helping you eat more servings of fruits and vegetables in a day, and that's kind of where we try to go to it as well. So I find that keeping the creative in those tenets kind of helps to counteract the scary high-tech vending machine that we're giving off. Yeah.
Thank you. All right, changing perceptions often goes hand in hand with addressing evolving consumer expectations. So Jen, with a mounting emphasis on health, wellness, and sustainability among today's consumers, in your experience, how can brands adapt to meet these growing priorities, such as sustainability, especially with brands that have a transient lifespan?
Sure. So this is definitely a great question for something like Hefty, which is a very long-standing brand and really stands a lot for trash bags, which is what I worked on while I was there. And one of the ways that we did it was by going slow and starting with one program that was going to halo to the rest of the brand. I think in a lot of ways it's nice to be bold and go big and have your whole brand stand for that, but that just wasn't going to be authentic to what the brand stands for, which is mostly around strength and being able to do that. And eventually we did make our way to strength through sustainability. Ultimately, that is where this campaign is going to go over time. But where we started was with one program that was a pilot way back in 2014, where we used hefty trash bags to collect to recycle plastics. So really being authentic to the product that we were, which is plastic, but working curbside. So you didn't have to change the consumer's behavior. You just had to buy a special bag that could contain the hard to recycle plastics, put it in your curbside with the rest of your recycling, and then that was kicked off into an end-of-life solution. You could make it back into the oil that it is for energy. You can do different things with the actual plastic, like building blocks, that type of stuff. So that was the original idea. Now that can only happen where you partner with that curbside recycling facility, and it's only in certain communities, but we knew that we were being authentic, and we knew that there was a really cool program where we were actually doing something to divert plastic away from landfills. And so when I came onto the brand, it was all about, well, what do we do with this? Like, yes, it's a great program if you live there, but if you don't, what are we going to do? How does it halo to the rest of the brand? And that's where we took your tried and true marketing methods of coming up with some ideas in a brainstorm in a work session, going to focus groups both in the markets where that program existed, but also markets where it didn't. And we tested different ways in. And sure enough, the ones that talked most to consumers were the ways that we showed that hard to recycle plastic going into something tangible, like a park bench or something that you could actually see. Like the holy grail would be, fully closed loop of you can recycle this plastic and then it ends up in your home, I don't know, in some way in the package that it was originally in your kids' toys. That really is the magic. We weren't going to be able to get all the way there, but we did have a way to actually show what we were doing. And so rather than, doing other things like it saves your community money, stuff like that, it was really closing the loop and putting it right back into the consumer's hand was the most powerful. And over time, we tested a bunch of different ways of creative, and some of the best was, again, showing just how many tons we diverted from a landfill. So if you imagine one of the strongest men in the world pulling an airplane, that equated to the amount of pounds diverted from a landfill, that was the creative that we ended up with. So it really took it all the way around. Over time, that idea would be strength through sustainability, but that's just one way that we took the brand into a new direction. And I bring that example up for a couple of reasons. First is that it's okay to go slow. That someone said it earlier today, go slow to go fast. It does take time to dig all the way into the insights and to test different things and then get it out there. But I think what also we have to do as brand marketers is show that vision. If we think it's going to take 5 years to get there, and in the case of sustainability, we're in a much longer journey than that, right? You need technology, you need more recycling facilities, all that stuff. That's fine. We know it's going to take that long. But if I went to my management and just said, hey guys, it's going to take like 30 years, see you later. No way. But if I start to lay out, every year we're going to put a little more investment in this. Every year we're going to do a little bit more, and show the path and the journey. That's the unlock there, is showing the path, showing how you're going to get there and into the future. And then I think the other thing that, again, some people have said it here, but get yourself out there, get away from the desk. I have been to recycling facilities. I have been to places where they make the recycled content. I have been to, different sustainability. I've been to the Plastic Recyclers Conference. Did I ever think I would do that as a brand marketer? Did I really have to do that in order to launch this campaign? No. But that's how I knew where we could push boundaries with the sustainable efforts, where we couldn't, where the technology just wasn't there. And I don't want to be over-promising or being
inauthentic either, but I think getting out of my desk, getting out there, experiencing it is where you can become either a subject matter expert and you understand where you can push or pull, or you can really be alongside with your consumers and really understanding it from their perspective, especially when you're talking these big, broad trends like wellness, like sustainability. Those are huge things that you just get out there and start to experience it is really, really valuable. Great, it's very impressive work. Nice job. Let's talk about impact and metrics and how do we know that this is all working. So how do we know that this is the purpose-driven work is resonating with our consumers? How do we gauge if a brand's purpose is genuinely resonating? Are there specific tools or metrics that you guys look at on your brands? Who wants to start us off?
I'll start us off just by continuing with that same campaign. First, I don't think it takes something specific or different to test this type of marketing. If it works for all your other campaigns, all your other communication, it should work for this. And if it's not, then simply putting the word purpose on it probably isn't going to help you either. Maybe get you through your presentation with your managers, but probably not the way to really be connecting to consumers. So I think it's the same metrics and measurements that any other campaign would have. And then certainly if there is something, like in our case with sustainability, we started to put into all of our health measurements, do you think this is a brand that's working for the environment, or do you think this product helps with the overall environment? We're asking that question about something that we maybe know is not today, but we wanted to be able to set that track and be able to test it over time. So we put that metric into everywhere. Everywhere that you would say, trash bag is normally leak proof, do you also think it's helping the environment? So that we could start to track all that. And then for the actual campaign, again, back to the tried and true of that qualitative followed by quantitative, and then adjusting and measuring throughout the whole process.
Yeah, I think I really agree with what Jen just said about you kind of have to go with the same metrics that you measure everything else for, because at the end of the day, it has to be good for the business as well. So just measuring for us, like increase in trial, increase in revenue when we have a specific purpose-driven campaign going on. We also rely a lot on social listening to see what folks on social are saying, or we have a lot of very dedicated fridge fans who will write in, so a lot of customer service insights as well, and then definitely adding to our brand tracking and insights work to see how people are associating with the brand when we launch a new campaign.
Anybody else?
Sure. I mean, yes to all of the above. Circle D in the Scantron. I think the only other thing that I would add is we also have a robust pre-testing measurement framework. So, we're big believers that, by pre-testing and effectively optimizing your creative, I think the stat is it can make your creative 30% more efficient in driving sales or converting sales or something like that. But, we believe in that. So we pre-test the hell out of all of our creative elements because we want to make sure that, our finite media dollars are spent really wisely, right? We're putting the right creative in the right market, in the right channel. So that's the only other thing that I would build there.
Great, thank you. I think in addition, it goes back to what Sophie said earlier this morning. It has to make sense for your brand, and so I think authenticity is key to everything you're doing, even beyond just the measurement and metrics, but it really has to make sense for your brand. And I really do think that consumers expect that today, right? They can tell if you're not being authentic or inauthentic. And so I think it's a core tenet that every brand needs to take into consideration. All right, moving on. So can we talk about what ways your brand purpose guides your collaboration with your creative agencies and partners? And how do you ensure that they fully grasp the core values of your brand?
So I think a great example of this that I used in my everyday agency life, I used to be on the agency, so I can speak from firsthand experience, is the art of the briefing. So not the brief, I think a lot of people have talked about that, but the briefing process. I also grew up doing musical theater, so I love a production, I love a show, and I treat briefings almost like a show, brings to life your brand purpose. So we just kicked off a few months ago, 2024, planning for Tropicana. Again, we're centered around brightness, so the room was bright, there was a playlist, there was interactive videos and experiences, and like we wanted to transform the room into bottled sunshine was the brief. And so if you can take the tenets of your purpose and actually physically start experiencing them with your brand, and I think you could think about, you know, making in the kitchen, or like there's different examples that can apply for the folks up here. But thinking about the briefing process, the way to engage your agency on your brand purpose, I found to be really insightful and helpful.
I love that advice. We're still doing most of our creative in-house, but as we start to think about working with agencies, I'm going to steal that one.
First of all, Julia, can you please come and do my briefing for me? Yes, and I mean, we've spent the last 2 years building up our own in-house agency team. And I think one of the benefits of that is all the team members are like super clued in to the brands, the brand challenges, the brand purpose. I think the downside of that is we get wired in the muck of that every day. So it's really hard to be inspired by a brief and making sure that you're bringing your brand purpose through so that it shines through in the activation or the delivery. So if you're freelancing, I'll hire you for sure.
And no pun intended, shines through.
Oh yeah.
All right, let's talk about Gen Z. We know that they are becoming a consumer powerhouse, right? And they demand, like I said, authenticity and to know purpose. And so have you had to, and if so, how, recalibrate any of your creative strategies to resonate with them more effectively?
I think I'm starting with this one. I'm like trying to remember my script here. So with Gen Z, and I think with consumers in general, you've heard this probably throughout, but stop messaging at them, but letting consumers drive the work. So a great example of this is end of last year, we started noticing on TikTok that people were making a lot of mimosas. And they were doing it not with a lot of OJ, right? So as an OJ brand, we want 99% OJ, a splash of champagne. Where consumers want a spray of champagne, a drop of champagne, a whisper of champagne, a whisper of OJ, and 99% champagne. See, I'm even saying it reverse because I want us to sell our OJ. So again, starting with the consumer instead of jamming OJ down their throats, pun intended, we ended up creating, which we lovingly call, and shout out to Chelsea, who also worked on this, the Mimosa Maker. So it literally was a proprietary tool that only fits in our single-serve bottle. We made it with the same engineers that create our single-serve bottle, and it was a little bit of a gadget, and the sprays were whisper, spritz, and we ended up, they sold out in I think like 60 seconds or something, like it was crazy. And but the idea was, instead of telling consumers how they should drink us, we listened to consumers, saw how they were drinking us, celebrated that, right? And then were rewarded accordingly. We ended up getting tons of, I think it was about 1 billion in our media, tons of positive praise kind of in the trades, and then our purchase intent with families and the adults of the family really went up. So again, an example of not talking at them, but having consumers drive the conversation with consumers in general, but especially with Gen Z, that's paramount.
Do you have any of those left?
No, I do not have one.
Shopper marketing for Lamarca over here, so maybe we should,
Oh, please, yeah.
I think for Gen Z, when I think about it, meeting them where they are, clearly that's, been discussed many times, the channels and the ways they want to be communicated with. The authenticity piece is huge. When I think about marketing to Gen Z, I'll say to the team, if we don't love a piece of content or have like a reason to post or email or get into their inbox or on their feed, just skip it. Like, we don't have to do things just to check a box or to do X number of things per week. Like, let's only put out stuff that cracks us up or communicates valuable information or is just amazing. I think marketing for the sake of marketing is not going to get brands very far going forward, and so really just only leading with stuff we feel great about. There's so much brand noise out there that if no one's dying to hear from me on Thanksgiving, or any holiday, like we don't need to wish people a happy any holiday just for the sake of doing it. Only do it if it ties into our brand or we have such a funny idea or whatnot. So that's, I think, what Gen Z is just so quick at catching you on and will not put up with.
I have one additional thought that wasn't necessarily related to the campaign I mentioned previously, but I think partnerships can really lend a lot of credibility, especially among that cohort. And so if brands are able to get in with the right partnerships, you get automatic equity and automatic consumers into there. So there were some things that I was working on before I left Reynolds that, you know, hopefully would get us there, but I think that's another way in, is thinking about other ways and equities and partnerships to get there.
I think our challenge with Gen Z is a little bit different because, like, when you think about it practically, do we know a Gen Z who has a $300,000 kitchen in their home, a home that they certainly don't own, and that they are going to spend $600, $700, $800 on a kitchen appliance that they may use once a month, if that, right? So, like, I think our challenge is, you know, around authenticity, right? Like being authentic to who we are, creating that, like, that kitchen experience that they can see themselves maybe aspirationally in a couple of years, but really just making sure they know who we are, making sure they know that we exist, so that when they do advance to that life stage of owning their own home or renting their own home, but maybe having more than like a 5 square foot kitchen, like having some space where they can say, oh my gosh, now I think I do want this on my countertop because it's a status symbol, or because I am really into baking right now, right? So it's just making them know that, hey, we're here and we're ready to partner with you whenever you're ready to buy us.
Thank you. So it's clear that brand purpose is not merely a marketing buzzword here, right? And that it does inform every aspect of our marketing process, our creative process. So my question is, as we continue to navigate the evolving consumer landscape, how do each of you see the role of brand purpose evolving when it comes to your creative strategies?
Can you start us off here? I would say that I hope it doesn't evolve. So as the landscape evolves and culture and consumers, like, that should keep evolving, and we don't want to fall behind, but just like, I hope that my purpose and like my individual continues to stay pointed and focused. I hope our brands do too, because I think that's the only way to navigate the waters of change and to continue to have a clear point of view. Go back to your DNA, go back to what you stand for, and use that as the barometer to help you with, you know, all the endless options that there are in the marketing world right now, because that will never end. But staying true, I think, is my hope.
I also don't think I also think it is inextricable that if you are a brand, it is purpose, and you have a purpose, otherwise you're just a product. And so I think that's it, like, it's inextricable in my mind.
I think for us, purpose is just so central to what we do. It really guides all the work that we do, whether it's from pricing to manufacturing practices, everything throughout all the divisions of business in our company. So it's just, we really come back to that. We start every town hall with our purpose and just really try to keep people very centered in why we're all working so hard to put vending machines around the country. And so I think for us, like, it can't evolve, echoing what everyone has said. It needs to be really strong, and then just how can we grow and build on that.
And I think for us, like, our purpose remains true, and it will remain true for the foreseeable future. I think any sort of like ebb and flow or way that we would adapt is really how culture ebbs and flows and adapts. But making sure that we stay authentic to creating those extraordinary kitchen experiences is our #1 way to really have integrity as a brand. And then through that, we'll deliver meaningful differentiation, right? So that consumers see KitchenAid in a very specific and meaningful way that drives greater commercial value than our competitors in the space.
Right. I think one of the sessions earlier talked about discipline, and I think that's one of the things that a brand purpose can do in this wide world of creativity and evolution, is provide discipline and that authenticity that we keep talking about. So that's all I have for questions. Thank you guys so much. I think we have time to open it up for some Q&A if anybody's got some questions.
We might offer up as a roast maker, but that was brave enough to ask a question.
No, but I'll put in a plug for Farmers Fridge, because I am one of those people who have like called into customer service, I guess. So you're welcome for that. And I go to the airport and go seek it out.
Oh my gosh, thank you.
If you haven't tried it,
I did not pay her for that.
Any questions?
No, there's one over here. I'll grab. Here.
That when you're trying to promote the Farmers Bridge. I mean, sorry, everywhere else, people are walking into a building and they are getting their choices, you know, through a grocery store or something like that. People don't know where your refrigerators are, I guess, or how do you go about promoting location?
That is my daily existence question. It is a very fun brand to market, but a really challenging one. I kind of joke of like, man, my next role is going to be a freeze after this, because our fridges will be located in around the corner or in a staffer's lounge or at gate B20, you know, in United Terminal, and so you really have to kind of know about it and seek them out. This summer, in the airport specifically, we did one of our first big media campaigns where we bought out the TSA bins at O'Hare, and so that was a really fun one. I wrapped it up like the Friday before my leave began, sent the files over, but that was really one of the first times we've kind of started to get our feet wet in terms of just media spend and what the power of that can do. But even within that, it's a little tricky, the messaging. We can't be, 30 locations at O'Hare. Like, how do you tell people where they are in such a quick moment? But what we're hoping is just the repetition of the logo and using the freshness cues of the salad as you're putting your shoes on in the TSA bins would kind of help. I know we thought about that a lot. We were like, is that gross? But that would encourage people to seek it out, and just knowing that there is something this fresh and this delicious looking in the airport would kind of encourage them to do that extra step of looking at our website or our app to figure out the locations. But it's a big challenge, because with 1,000 locations, if I had a massive team, I would make a marketing plan for each location. Every client has a different newsletter, or they allow us to do different signage in the building or whatnot. But I don't. I have, a handful of folks, and so I have to make a playbook that works for all of our fridge locations. And it's really hard. We do it by vertical, and we try to provide our clients, who would be like building managers, food service managers, with the collateral to market themselves and get as creative as they want to by giving them a Dropbox of assets and suggested language for their socials, their whatnot, but it's challenging. It's really become a very B2B and B2C job in that way.
Last one. It's gonna be our last one.
In driving home the brand purpose and creative for each one of your brands, and I don't know if you have time for everybody, but for anybody that wants to answer this, there's something in terms of driving home that authenticity you've all touched on. Is there something that's delighting you about creator marketing, influencer marketing, and driving home that authenticity and bringing that brand purpose messaging that you want to share? Is there something that's getting you excited, platform, some type of influencer campaign that you guys have done to ladder up to the messaging you've described?
Well, I think some of the interesting things that we've seen, people are crazy with their stand mixers. They really are. They're wild. I think some of the interesting things that we've seen that delight us are when they're finding alternative uses for their stand mixer, right? So, there are people in the health and wellness space or on Clean Talk who are making homemade soap in their stand mixer. And using the mixer to mix, right? So it gives us inspiration for other ways that we can show up with our product without also voiding the warranty. So it's those types of things that make us smile. Last year, the hack with using a hand mixer to clean out the inside of your pumpkin during Halloween was another big one that we could activate on in a really agile way. But it's those types of small little incremental surprises and delight enable us to show up in conversations we wouldn't have thought of.
Thank you.
I would kind of just add that, you know, I've always worked for growth stage companies where we don't have the biggest budgets to do creator influencer campaigns, but I think just the biggest hack of consumer marketing is relying on your UGC. Like, just the content that people are making for you for free, and once you get permission, repost it. You don't have to reinvent the wheel every day when you're staring at your calendar, what should I put out? If people are creating content for you, that is, you know, up for the grabs, and they're always thrilled to be reshared. And so I think, and kind of like what Mitch said, seeing how people are organically using your product and what's delighting them about it, but really relying on, if people are excited enough about what you're doing to share on their personal feeds, that is such a compliment, and then resharing it further, it kind of just has an amplification effect. So I think that's always been something I've really heavily relied on, is just pick up what they're doing.
All right.
Thanks, you guys. Really appreciate it. I think a lot of